My name is Mia Thomas, and I'm 31. If you had asked me last year what my life looked like, I would have described it as near perfect: a growing lifestyle brand, a circle of friends who felt like family, and Richard, my boyfriend of 3 years. He's 33, brilliant at tech consulting, infuriatingly stubborn at times, and the kind of man who can make you laugh until your cheeks hurt, and then make you question your entire sense of reality in the next moment. When he proposed that quiet Sunday afternoon, sunlight spilling across our apartment, I didn't even hesitate. Of course I said yes. In that moment, everything felt cinematic. Our favorite jazz playlist humming softly, the scent of fresh flowers on the windowsill, and that awkward, perfect thrill of being utterly in love. But of course, nothing stays cinematic forever. Richard and I had been talking about a life together for a while, and I was excited, but cautiously practical. I own a lifestyle brand that's slowly building momentum, with sponsorships bringing in roughly $30,000 a year. Comfortable, but hardly yacht money. Still, when it came to planning the wedding, I indulged Richard's excitement. At first, everything seemed normal. He was thrilled, I was thrilled, and the world looked like it had given us this perfect, shared dream. Then the planning began. Not a casual, maybe we'll pick a place in town type of planning. This was cinematic-level, extravagant planning. Historic estate venues, $15,000, catering for 50 guests, $30,000 in flowers, $8,000 photographer and videographer, my gown at $12,000, a live band for $6,000. The list could have doubled if Richard had let it. I initially went along with it because I loved him, and I wanted him happy. But the first seed of doubt came in the form of a casual conversation at a barbecue with my lawyer friend, Garrett. "You've got a business," he said, leaning over the grill. "You need a prenup. It's not about trust, it's about protection. You really want to skip this?" I nodded slowly, pretending nonchalance. But inside, my mind was already running scenarios. Could I trust Richard to respect my assets? Of course. But trust and legal protection aren't the same thing. They never are. That night, I decided to bring it up. Casually, almost conversationally. "Richard," I started, keeping my voice light. "Garrett suggested a prenup. Just standard stuff to protect the business. Nothing crazy." The air changed instantly. You could almost see the temperature drop 20 degrees. I don't get it," he said, frowning. "You think I don't trust you?" "No, Richard," I replied, forcing calmness into my tone. "I trust you completely. This isn't about you. It's about me. About what I've built. That's all." Then he said the words that shifted everything. "I'll sign a prenup when hell freezes over." I remember standing there, heart sinking. But strangely, my mind was sharper than my pulse. I could see the manipulation creeping in, the anger, the guilt-tripping, the refusal to respect boundaries. I smiled softly, calmly, rationally, and that's when the decision crystallized. If protecting my life's work meant risking his rage, then so be it. I could handle that. The next morning, I started quietly canceling every single element of our $85,000 wedding. Not angrily, not vindictively, just methodically. The venue, catering, photographer, videographer, florists. Each one received a simple, practical explanation. Irreconcilable differences had emerged. Refunds processed, cancellations confirmed. No one knew, except Marcus, my best friend, who had only one question when I explained my plan. "Are you a genius or completely insane?" I didn't answer. I just smiled. Meanwhile, Richard remained blissfully unaware. Bianca, his ex-girlfriend, was not officially part of the picture. But in the back of my mind, I knew she would surface eventually. Richard still spoke of her occasionally, and I could feel the tension of unresolved history simmering beneath the surface. And so, with each quiet cancellation, a sense of calm certainty washed over me. I wasn't angry. I wasn't reckless. I was resolute. The prenup was non-negotiable. My assets were non-negotiable. And if this $85,000 wedding couldn't happen under those terms, then it wouldn't happen at all. The tension hadn't exploded yet, but I knew it was coming. The calm before the storm. Richard didn't find out about the cancellations immediately. For a week, I moved in silent, deliberate steps. Calls to venues, emails to photographers, confirmations to florists. Each vendor responded with a kind of practiced understanding. Apparently, last-minute wedding cancellations happen more often than you'd think. I even got back about 60% of the venue deposit, 50% of the catering, and full refunds from the photographer who had booked a more lucrative wedding on the same date. All the while, Richard was completely oblivious. He was still scrolling Pinterest boards, pinning dream centerpieces, posting selfies about becoming Richard's future missus. His posts told me everything. He was still imagining a life contingent on me staying silent, on me surrendering the prenup, on me paying for a fantasy he couldn't comprehend without controlling. Then came the inevitable explosion. It started with voicemails, dozens of them, each more unhinged than the last. Richard's voice, usually steady and calm, now quivering with disbelief and anger. "Mia, what did you do? Our wedding is 4 months away. You can't just—" I let them pile up. I didn't answer. Then came the texts, the gaslighting. "You're financially abusing me. You're destroying our dream. How could you?" I read each message with the same detached clarity I had when canceling the bookings. I wasn't destroying anything. I was protecting myself. But to Richard, that distinction didn't exist. To him, love and money were the same thing, intertwined in a way that demanded submission, not boundaries. Meanwhile, Bianca, or rather Richard's ex, still orbiting our lives in subtle ways, started posting, subtly, on social media, photos of her own engagement years ago, comments hinting at how a real partner provides without conditions. I could almost hear her voice echoing through the chaos Richard was creating. Even Scarlett, Bianca's maid of honor, became an unintentional witness to the unraveling. She popped by to talk about floral arrangements, unaware that the wedding they were planning no longer existed. I could hear everything from my office. Scarlett suggesting menu tastings, Bianca calling venues in a panic, and Richard pacing the living room, phone in hand, disbelief etched across his face. When Bianca finally realized the cancellations were real, the shrieks could have registered on seismographs. "What did you do?" she screamed, voice high, sharp, unhinged. I stepped out calmly, keeping my tone neutral, almost soothing. I canceled the wedding. "You can't do that," she screamed again. "Yes, I can. I'm the one paying for it," I said simply, "and I won't pay for a wedding without a prenup." Her face went pale. She hadn't anticipated this. None of them had. Then came the GoFundMe. In the middle of the chaos, Bianca somehow managed to convince her friends, her family, and even strangers online that she was a victim of financial abuse. Her posts were dramatic masterpieces. "Help me save my dream wedding after financial abuse." She portrayed me as the villain, the manipulative, controlling woman who had stolen 4 months of happiness. I didn't respond. I let her spin, let her unravel. My silence was louder than any argument. Richard tried reasoning, bargaining, pleading. I ignored him. Each message, each call, each social media plea only reinforced what I already knew. He and his ex were trying to manipulate me, to pressure me into surrendering my boundaries, and boundaries were non-negotiable. Through it all, I stayed calm. I reminded myself the wedding, the money, the social pressure, they were all external. My internal compass, my assets, my independence, my self-respect, those were mine to protect. No one could take them without my consent. It was only a matter of time before Richard and Bianca realized. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't irrational. I was firm. I was clear. And I wouldn't back down. By the time Richard and his family realized the wedding wasn't happening, the tension had escalated into a full-blown emotional battlefield. Bianca had retreated to her own frenzy, posting selfies, dramatic captions, and, of course, the GoFundMe that had already raised a few $1,000s from sympathetic friends and gullible followers. Richard, however, decided negotiation was the path forward. He showed up at my apartment with his parents in tow, a mix of righteous indignation and barely concealed panic plastered across his face. His father, Terrence, and his mother, Dee, both looked ready to deliver a lecture on what it meant to be a real partner. "Mia," Dee began, voice clipped and cold, "we need to talk about this. You humiliated our son and destroyed his dream. Surely we can find some middle ground." I kept my tone calm, almost clinical. "Middle ground?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "You mean middle ground for me to surrender my assets while everyone else gets what they want?" Richard's jaw tightened. "It's not like that. We can, maybe, adjust things. Compromise." "Compromise means my business and savings are respected," I said evenly. Compromise means a prenup is signed. Without it, there is no wedding. They looked at me as if I'd just announced I was moving to another planet. Bianca had also shown up uninvited, leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, eyes blazing. "Okay, Mia," she said sweetly, venom barely disguised under the smile. "I'm willing to negotiate under conditions." I let her speak. She outlined her terms. The prenup would expire after 5 years. She would get the house if we divorced, and a monthly allowance of $10,000. I blinked, let the silence stretch. Then I said, calm but firm, "Are you my partner or my dependent? Because allowances aren't part of marriage. They're part of charity." Richard's face flushed red. "Mia, this is just be reasonable." "Original prenup or no wedding," I said, my voice steady. "You're trying to manipulate reality into bending around entitlement. That ends now." They huffed, scoffed, and protested. I didn't flinch. I knew my boundaries, my rights, and my worth. The moment had become a test, not of love, but of integrity. Finally, I offered a solution. If a prenup is signed, we can have a smaller, reasonable wedding. 50 guests, nice restaurant, something that doesn't cost $85,000. Richard's mouth opened. "Not my dream wedding. This is humiliating." "Your dream wedding," I said quietly, letting the words sting, "was contingent on me surrendering my assets. You wanted me silent, obedient, and paying for everything without protection. You said no prenup, no compromise. Now there's no wedding. I am not bluffing." Bianca flinched. Richard's parents sputtered. I remained calm, almost serene in the eye of their emotional storm. It wasn't about cruelty. It wasn't about spite. It was about principle, about knowing when to stand firm, about understanding that manipulation and entitlement cannot coexist with trust and partnership. In that moment, I realized something. The wedding wasn't the prize. My independence was. My self-respect was. And I wasn't about to give that up for the illusion of a dream that had never been mine to begin with. After the confrontation, the dust settled, but the social battlefield raged on. Bianca's GoFundMe fizzled into farce, a digital monument to her own entitlement. She spun her story, claiming I had suddenly demanded a prenup weeks before the wedding, that I had canceled everything without warning, that I had held her dream hostage. All dramatized, all false. Meanwhile, Richard's attempts at reconciliation grew desperate. Texts, calls, even messages through friends, pleading, bargaining, accusing me of cruelty. I ignored everyone. My silence was deliberate. Every message he sent was just more proof that I had made the right choice. Boundaries aren't optional, and people who refuse to respect them aren't partners. They're obstacles. Even Bianca's social media supporters began to turn. Screenshots surfaced of her previous boasting about marrying a walking ATM. And suddenly, the narrative shifted. Followers questioned the story, questioned her sincerity, questioned her motives. She deleted posts, went private, and vanished from the public eye, but not before leaving a digital trail of self-inflicted humiliation. And Richard? He realized, too late, that a relationship cannot thrive when one partner refuses to respect the other's independence. He tried negotiation again, this time alone, but I was unyielding. Without a prenup, there was no future. Without respect, there was no love. In the aftermath, I reflected on everything I had learned. The lesson was sharp, and it cut through any remaining doubt. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. A partner who refuses to protect your assets is not a partner. The wedding industry thrives on illusions. $85,000 for one day is madness. Prenups are not insults, they are shields for self-respect. I kept my business, my assets, and my sanity. Some of the refunded wedding money went toward a home theater setup I'd always wanted, a quiet, personal victory. I even began dating again, this time a financial analyst who respected prenups before I even mentioned them. The difference was night and day. Bianca, true to pattern, moved back with her parents. Social media updates chronicled her attempts at reinvention, financial literacy coach, dating crypto enthusiasts, living the illusion she had always chased. But I didn't care. Her chaos no longer touched my life. Even Richard's family occasionally reached out, a mix of apology and complaint, but I had blocked most of them. Some texts got forwarded to my lawyer, just in case. I laughed. There was nothing left to negotiate. The boundary lines were drawn, and nothing could blur them. In the end, the wedding never happened. 4 months of planning, $85,000 in extravagance, and countless arguments all boiled down to one immutable truth. I had stood my ground, and I was free.